But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. We're gonna go from that to. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. Ah, ah. If you wanna see all the cracks in there that I hide away, let me show you instead. Hello, this is VXT and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you certain tips and techniques to take your home vocals and make them sound studio recorded and professional and get the sound of today's top 40 modern R&B/hip hop. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. So before we get to vocal mixing techniques, let's just focus on getting the recording and tracking done correctly. So what I like to do during tracking is actually not just do one single take, but do like 4 or 5 or 10, however many different takes I need to do, just with different emotions, different feels, and like just being creative. With this 5 takes, I'll find phrases that I like from each take. What that gives me is one super take, a really quality starting point, which is really important before we even try to fix anything with EQ, compression, reverb, or other mixing techniques. The first thing I usually like to do, especially on melodic parts, have a melodyne on it. So what I'll do with melodyne is I'll go through each single note and try to control dynamics and the pitch. As you can see, we're in F minor here. I have the F minor notes highlighted in white, and you can see I'm mostly in key, and that's always the first step that I'll go through. So it still has the vibrato, it still has the emotion, it's not completely squashed or robotic, but it still corrects my pitch enough to make it sound melodic. The next thing in the chain I have here is auto-tune. So as you can see, I'm in the key of F minor. I just wanted that medium-ish retune speed effect on my vocals. And with auto-tune, this is what we end up with. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. Now, the next thing that I have here on my chain is a mic mod by Antares. This is an absolutely amazing plugin. I really love this, especially for home audio where you don't have access to tons of mics. You can just use mic mod. All you need to do is set your input source mic to whatever mic you're using. I'm using an SM7 here. That's what I recorded the song with. Modeled mic, I'm using a TLM 103, which is really common with like Drake and The Weeknd and Tory Lanez. So the first thing that I have here in terms of EQ is a Volcano 3. This is just a nonlinear EQ, which I am doing a high pass filter somewhere around 80 Hz because I don't have any frequencies below that. I'm using a smooth filter at around 220 Hz or so, just to give my vocals a little bit of body and emphasize the fundamental frequency. And now the next thing that we have on here is a studio rack. I started off with a preset called the Easy Clean Vocal. Did change out a couple of compressors in there and the EQ settings to match this particular song. But it's great to start off with a preset so you at least have a workflow of like what knobs you want to change. And the first thing that I'm doing here is I have a Q2, which is just a simple 2-band EQ that's rolling off really smoothly under 165 Hz, since the SM7B does still add a lot of low end, which I don't want for this kind of a song. And then we have a compressor. So the first one in my chain is a CLA 76, which is giving me around 1 to 3 dB of gain reduction, just really smooth, really nice 4:1 ratio, followed up by a R compressor, giving me around 5 to 6 dB of compression. With the compressors, this is what we get. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. Ah, ah. If you wanna see all the cracks in there that I hide away. So really not a lot going on. We're getting about 4 to 5 dB of gain reduction in total, but I think that's good enough since we already had some gain reduction and dynamic control using Melodyne before. I like to do EQing after compression. There's been debate. You can do it before, you can do it after, do whatever sounds best to you. There is no right answer in music, but I usually like to do it after my compression. I have a simple 4-band VEQ. It's rolling off around a dB or 2 below 180 Hz. I like to boost the high end of around 4 to 5 kilohertz at the end of things, just to give it a little bit of air. But I didn't like the sound that VEQ is producing up there, so I just did a dB of gain in there, and then I added another EQ, which is a pulsec emulation, and I'm doing a boost of around 4 to 5 dB at around 5 kilohertz or so. And the bandwidth is pretty low, so you're getting really smooth high shelf air. And see the difference that it makes with these. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. Makes the vocals tame and really nice to listen to and smooths it out. And since we added so many EQs and compression and boosted the high end where most of the sibilances lie, I would usually follow this up with a de-esser. I'm using the Pro DS by FabFilter, which is a great starting point. Just the male wideband preset, and just control the threshold and range. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. Ah, ah. If you wanna see all the cracks in there that I hide away. So really subtle again, but it takes off the harsh sibilant sound from your vocals. The other thing that I have on here is a parallel split where I'm doing some more compression, really gentle. And then I have on a parallel bus, like a send, I have a reverb with a pre-delay of 40 milliseconds and then a time decay of 2. And with the reverb, it sounds something like this now. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. So that really gives the vocal a room to sit in and makes it sound more full. Now, the next thing that I have here on the chain is an instance of Neutron, which is doing some minor sculpting of the spectral shape, which is followed up by an EQ where I'm boosting some of the body at 400 Hz or so. And as you can see is the note G sharp, which is the third in my scale F minor, and it's also the most common note that I'm singing, along with a couple of cuts that are dynamically triggered based on the sidechain from the original signal. So just to reduce some of the harshness, and then I have a limiter at the end of things, just so I can control the volume, make sure it's not going beyond a particular level. The last thing I had here was just an EQ to take off some of the high-end harshness again. And now with the instrumental, let's see how it sounds. But if you wanna peek inside my head, let me show you. Said let me show you. Oh, oh. If you wanna see all the cracks in there that I hide away. So the next thing I want to focus on is all the send channels I have in here. The first thing that I have on here is a delay send, and I'm putting on some autotune, some de-essing so I don't have any sibilance in my delayed signal. This is before I go to the delay. Some EQing to get rid of the low end, then edge delay of half a bar, and a really low feedback. And I'm also inverting the phase on both left and right channels. And this is followed up with a compressor triggered by a sidechain from the original signal. You can set this up in FL Studio by going into the gear icon, processing, and then set the stereo sidechain to hooks. Sometimes what I like to do is, instead of using the sidechain, I think I did a manual automation here. So I think you can see it here. I just control it using a macro on my MIDI controller, so it's only present when I want it to. And I'll send that delay to a reverb as well. This was the first reverb that I used, and I'm also EQing out some of the low end from the reverb. So let's see how it sounds with the reverb and delay applied. All of these emotions I have, I don't know what to do with them. So I still wasn't happy with the way the vocals were sitting in the mix. It felt like they were still standing out a little bit too much. So I added another reverb. Now this one's just another plate. I have a pre-delay size of around 40-45 milliseconds again. So it's not clashing with the original vocals and makes it sit back in the mix a little bit more. And then I have another delay. I'm using Timeless to give it a 16th note stereo slapback kind of tape delay there. So with all these send channels in there, this is what we get. All of these emotions I have, I don't know what to do with them. So I suppress them and then I move on. And one thing that I still wanted to do was to make the vocals sound more stereo. So the way I achieved that was using a doubler, but all it does, it has a RVox, some sibilance that has a range of 6 dB, so a de-esser, followed by a parallel split. I have a doubler on the parallel split, a little bit of modulation, so they are not playing at the exact same time. Followed by a EQ just to boost off some of the high end, and a mondo mod to give it a little bit of panning and some space in the stereo mix. And that's followed up by a simple tap delay, and that's followed by a reverb. And on the other channel, I have a meta flanger at 50% mix to give it more of a flanging effect, followed by some reverb again. So let's just listen to what it sounds like without the main vocals, with only the send channels now.
But I cannot quantize all of these emotions I have. I don't know what to do with them, so I suppress all of these emotion voices in my head, thoughts that I don't say. Let me show you who I am. I'm not proud of it. This is who I am. This is who I am. Oh.
And that's about it in terms of the vocal mixing for the hook part. Now for the verses, I'm doing a similar thing. As you see, I have a Melodyne, I have an auto-tune right after that, some EQing, studio rack that's doing pretty much a gating, some EQ again, followed by a compressor. This time I'm compressing a little bit harder, followed by a de-esser and some reverb at the end of it. Now this one is a lot shorter in terms of pre-delays. I have the wet level set to about 4%. It's really subtle, but all these small little details do make a difference at the end of it.
If you wanna see all the cracks in there that I hide away, let me show you instead. Sometimes I get so lost that I don't know what I want.
One thing that I do want to point out and don't want to skip over is I also have an instance of Neutron on my instrumental bus. The only thing that it's doing is I'm using it as an unmasking filter to shape its EQ, and I'm using the vocal bus as my sidechain. And what this does is when we have the vocals and the instrumental playing at the same time, it creates a little bit of room in the instrumental for the vocals to sit in. So listen to this.
Girl, and tell her that she's so fine. Tell her that I need her, but it's only for the night. That I don't get attached, I just push her to the side. I'm exhausted out of the capacity to fight, cause the past is where I learn from, and it's imprinted in my brain. All this adrenaline, I just love it pumping through my veins.
So I hope that you found this information useful, and if you actually did, just please leave a like on this video, tell me how you feel about it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the song that I featured in this video, feel free to go and check it, stream it on any of the platforms that you usually do: Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. Keep making great music and have a nice day.